I hope every one of you had a great lunch. And, this is a difficult time on a Sunday to be concentrating on a presentation, but I hope I won't bore you too much, but let's get on to it. I'm very excited to be here. I'd like to thank Lakshika and the team at APIC who reached out to me. And as MAS Holdings, we're always very happy to share, what we have. And it's a journey, mind you. We don't consider ourselves, having achieved something. There's so much more to do. There's so much more to improve, but it's a happy thing to be able to take, especially young people, along on this journey. It's a lovely time to be young. Yes, you might see all the frustration, but you are at the position to make change and have that change that your children would admire, actually make big changes. People were so scared of change before, but after you've been through situations like what Sri Lanka has been today and the world through the global recession and pandemic, everyone is thinking about how to build back better. So it's a lovely period to be young. I wish I was back in my 20s or early 30s to really contribute, but I hope I can contribute by inspiring you and encouraging you and motivating you, because you're the future. So just a second. So that's me. This is the most overused photograph of me. I shared it for your poster, and I thought for this I'll put something else. But I happened to see that I was wearing the exact colors of your background, right? And then I thought, no, I'll use this photograph once more, simply because it matched with your unusual teal and mustard, which you had chosen for your theme. And so that's me. When the professionals deal with me, this is me on a normal Sunday at home. Okay, so I've been with MAS for 15 years, but this was not my first job. I'm a sustainability practitioner throughout my career. My master's is in environmental sciences, actually from JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. That's where I studied. So, for 2 years, Delhi was my home. And previously, I did my bachelor's in bio and computer science. I started off my career in an environmental organization, a grassroots level public litigation organization called EFL, the Environmental Foundation Limited, which is very, very famous in Sri Lanka for creating, many of the first environmentalists in this country have gone through working at EFL, a lot of passionate work, passionate people. I learned a lot working for the non-governmental sector. Then I went on to do a climate change project with the government of Sri Lanka. I was on a climate change enabling activity project under the Global Affairs division of the Ministry of Environment in Sri Lanka. Then I finally came into the private sector about 15 years ago, and I'm still here. Because MAS has been a company that inspired me to be the best version of myself. And I think that whatever sector you are in, you can contribute. So what I would like to do is there'll be two main parts of what I do today. I think firstly, to inspire you and to kind of get your creative juices going, I'm going to show you about MAS and what we do in sustainability, the strategy, etc. Then once I finish that, which would be a bulk of my presentation, I'm going to take you through a few short slides which are on sustainability strategy, just whatever business you do, what are the main things you need to think about. And then you'll remember some of the things we've done on MAS, and you'll think, hey, that was, aligned to making processes, that was aligned to stakeholder engagement, etc. Right? So that's the way I'm doing this. Let's hope technology is on my side. So here we go. So let's get into MAS and the Plan for Change. So Plan for Change is the name of MAS's sustainability strategy. As you know, if you look at MAS Holdings, change has been that one thing that has always happened, right? In the 15 years that I've been here, I've noticed that be it a recession, be it a financial crisis, be it a tsunami, be it the pandemic, be it even the terror attacks in 2019, the world is constantly changing. We are in a VUCA situation, and MAS always embraced change, right? If you really look at our tagline, MAS says that change is courage, and that's what we go as. So when we thought about sustainability strategy, also we thought let's call it plan for change, because these are changes we need to plan for, be it the environment, etc. So let me just tell you a little bit in case you're wondering what MAS is. So MAS is the largest apparel tech company in South Asia. We say we're apparel tech because it's not like we're just a sewing operation. We do all the design to delivery, end-to-end, innovation, everything. We're in all these countries that you see over here, with manufacturing facilities, or even an innovation hub in them, perhaps. We are a $2 billion conglomerate, working in obviously the industry in Sri Lanka that is bringing in the most amount of foreign exchange, together with all the others in the apparel sector. We are 35 years in business. We are a family-owned operation, and still is. We have 61 operations. So in all these locations, there are about 61, and we are the largest private sector employer in Sri Lanka. Basically, next to the government and the Sri Lanka Army, we are the biggest employer across those 15 countries. And one of the cornerstones of our work has been to be responsible, ethical, and sustainable, right? We started this long before it was a buzzword, before sustainability was a known thing, and it really came down to our founders. If you look at the M, A, and S, they stand for three brothers' names, right? Mahesh, Ajay, and Shera Damlin, right? They had a family business, and what had been passed down from their uncles and fathers, but they decided to do something different. They moved away from it, bought their first tiny factory, and started manufacturing in a very different way. Their own wives were helping with the HR department, with the finance department, and they were one of those first companies that said, we need to put air conditioning in the shop floor, right? We need to give meals for pregnant mothers, right? There was no sustainability strategy then, but they felt that, listen, we wanted to do that. And our first big order was really on a handshake, right? A certain gentleman came, Marketing Trust, he liked what he saw, and they always thought that this is a place that even I can send my daughter to. And he shook hands with Mahesh and gave him that first order, though we had probably not seen what it was like. We started off with lingerie, wearing undergarment, making undergarments which people wear, and it was something that was very new for Sri Lanka. But based on faith, and a lot of our business continues because of good relationships. And this is the same relationship which we first started with a customer. We've carried on, obviously, with our own workforce and the wider community. Why do we need to change? Now, it's great to talk about everything we do at MAS and all of that, but we are in an industry that is simply, has a lot of problems, right? Just a minute. When you look at just 2020, right, apparel is one of the most polluting industries, simply because once you wear the clothes, right, no matter how we make them at our office, at our factories, once you wear it and you've finished up with it, it finally ends up in a landfill more often than not, right? So you can see the statistics there. It's also a very energy heavy industry, right? Not just, we shouldn't just consider the cut and sew operations, which might not, have too much electricity, but you're talking about bonding, you're talking about molding, you're talking about, dye houses, all of that, all of which have impact on the environment. Then when we also look at it, it's one of those industries where there is a huge disparity. That means from the highest wage earner to the lowest wage earner, there is a big gap, simply because it is not a very sophisticated industry. The people who come in here to work are entry-level employees, right? So because of that, the skills, etc., which are taught, your career is not where you come in with a degree or something like that. It takes, for instance, one of these a lifetime for a garment sector employee who is in the sewing line to actually earn, what one of the top fashion brand, top executives will earn in just 4 days, right? And that's the reality. So these are all the problems of the industry we are in. And we are very, very conscious that these are the problems that we need to finally solve. So this is why we have a strategy called Plan for Change. Hold on, I'm just going to move my own pictures of all of you right to the day of, I'll pin it to the top. Give me 1 second. Okay. That's better. So Plan for Change is the name of our sustainability strategy. It contains and it encompasses 3 main areas. Products. This is what we put first, right? No matter what we do outside for people or the environment, we first need to change the product for good, right? Then lives change for good. It's everybody we touch as humans, and finally planet change for good, right? These are the 3 focus areas, and we have 12 commitments on this till 2025. If you look at our commitments, these are the commitments that we have. When it looks at products, we have an overall drive to have at least 50% of our revenue generated through sustainable products. And I'll get a little bit into that afterwards to say what is a sustainable product, right? Because we realize that this is the number 1 place where we have an impact, right? Our product. So we are doing it in 3 ways. First of all, we are innovating and disrupting the industry so that products, the way they are made, can be made better. Can they last longer? Can it be good for the wearer? Right? Can it use less resources and be recycled after? Now that comes all in the design phase itself, right? What are we using? Who are we getting, who are we servicing as a wearer? And what are the resources that go into that? Are we using the rarest resource or, a better resource? Then once we do that, we're also looking at sourcing sustainably. And currently, this is the area that we've got most far in our products pillar, looking and partnering with people and sources that would really have good, organic, natural, recycled material, right? Now, when it comes to this, the reason that this is something that's in the forefront first is because if you really look at the sustainability strategy of MAS or the sustainability of products, the bit that we do when we sew, etc., and of course our dye houses have a bigger footprint, but actually it's up and down the supply chain that we have most environmental impact, right? When the material is made from cotton to nylon, etc., which is not what we do, but we still take responsibility for it, and that's why we're looking at sourcing it responsibly. Get rid of it product, right? We are taking material, we are sewing it. Some things, yes, we need to, etc. Some things we dye, but we are within this tiny area. But that is not what sustainability is. You can't just be like, this is all I'm doing. But what I'm making, if after it leaves me, it has an environmental impact. If before it comes to me, it has an environmental and social impact. That is the true way of looking at the entire supply chain and up and down and looking at what can you do to change. That is why number 3 is after it leaves us. As you know, we export almost, everything that we make, other than for a few products that might find it back to our shore through some suppliers like Amanthi, etc. Circularity means that we have to look at what happens to our product after it leaves us. And now we're looking at post-consumer waste. After people use it, right? How are they getting rid of it? Can we partner with people who are in those shores? Because it has gone to Europe, it has gone to the States, right? It's not like we can go back and collect it and bring it here in a ship, but there are people who do that properly. How are we helping them do that properly, right? Then comes to the lives change for good pillar. This is a lot to do with 4 areas: empowering women, meaningful employment, world-class workplaces, and thriving communities. Now, while meaningful employment has diversity and perhaps women should sit in there, MAS has taken a special stance in really changing the lives of women, because most of our product is made by women. Our original product was mostly made for women. And if you look at our country of origin in Sri Lanka, we really wanted to change the narrative about women, making it to the management, and also empowering women who are on the work floor. As you know, there are lots of areas like gender-based violence, harassment, nutrition, things that women in our part of the world actually have to face with. And if that is a huge part of our ecosystem, we need to do something about it. Meaningful employment is about everything else that we do for people who work for us. Accelerating employee well-being and work-life balance, right? How are we doing work? How can we do it better to, give people the sort of life that they want, right? And this is not just about giving you a pay, but making sure that your family life is balanced, your children are getting the right nutrition, etc. Then ensure and elevate sustainable compensation. Like we spoke about, how can people upskill themselves, move up, earn better, etc. And fostering diversity and inclusion is everything other than the women's space. We are really looking at diversity when it comes to persons with disabilities. We have a large workforce of persons with disabilities, over 380 people with disabilities. I'll get into that a little later. World-class workplaces, that is, when you work for MAS, you shouldn't be, in an unsafe environment. So it's your health and safety, it's your grievance mechanisms. And finally, it's about, the thriving communities. Then looking at planet, obviously it's reduction of emissions. We actually have signed up for science-based targets against our baseline of 2019. We are transforming waste to value enhance 100% of non-hazardous waste, right? We're looking at responsible chemical use, safeguarding water, and champion biodiversity. Now, biodiversity, why is that important to us? We said, okay, we have all these factories. I said we have about over 60 factories. Each of them takes some space. What if up to the acreage of that space, into 100 area, we really protect in various methods? This might be reforestation, this might be invasive species removal, mangroves, etc. What an impact we can have, right? So I'm just showing some of this. I'm going to go very quickly through this because these are just some of the things that we are looking at. Our 50% revenue by 2025, and we're currently tracking at 21%. We know where it's coming from, right? 66% of the revenue is because our raw materials are made from sustainable, we're bringing sustainable sourcing. Then we see that 8% of the revenue was generated through designing clothes that have, design and product enhancements. Then we're looking at manufacturing processes. Is it using less water? Is it using less heating, etc., to make the process? And finally, it's about the, the social inclusion of our projects, right? What products are having a positive social impact, right? We have adaptive wear that we've made. So a person who, if you really look at yourself, Ayush, do you have a question?
You're seeing the same slide from the beginning. Is it some like, have you changed the slide, or is it the same? Is it mistake from my side? I'm seeing the same slide.
Okay. Can anyone say if they're seeing a slide that says a heading progress snapshot?
No, we are at our plan for change.
Oh dear. Thanks, Aish, for telling me that. Okay, now how are we going to do this? It's changing on mine. Not yet, anyone? Okay, this is what Plan for Change looks like, right? We have 3 areas, and these are the 12 commitments. Okay, all right, everyone, up to speed? All good?
Yeah.
Okay, super. Moving on. So this is what I said, products are snapshot of saying, we can see raw materials, through the different methodologies, how we've so far come to our sustainable revenue is concerned, right? I'll get that to in a little while. This is how we're tracking with some of our lives indicators. This is not everything we track, but we just put a few things that are interesting, where we are at and where we're trying to go. This is our emissions indicators. We have certain things that we're working on, certain things are moving faster than others, certain things are tougher, right? We're looking with expansion, how do we still stick to these numbers that we're talking about? So let's get back into the product, and I'll just go a little bit into it to say, now it's very easy for a company like us to say, oh, we are going to have 50% revenue generated through sustainable products by 2025. But what do you mean by sustainable products, right? So it's very important to understand that you can really, go as low as you want or high as you want on this area. And that's why MAS made sure that we really made a sustainable product criteria, right? Otherwise, you'll just use one like recycled paper to wrap everything and say, oh, that's a sustainable product, right? Or there will be just some 2-3 things that happen, like, you've used, reuse the polythene bags that the material is brought in, and you say that makes it a sustainable product. No. So at MAS, we gave standards of saying that there are so many indicators. If one of the main raw materials, which account for more than 50% of something, is made out of a certain type of better recycled material, then you can claim that it's a certain goal level sustainability initiative. And you needed to collect like so many goals and so many silver level initiatives for the product to be then named as a sustainable product. This is being accountable, right? This is being, truthful to what you're trying to do. It's okay to say it's hard to do. We haven't still got there, but it's really bad to kind of make a standard that you're just going to hit. That's just going to trick people, right? So we haven't given for just, packing something again and sending it, etc. Even if it's sustainable cotton, it had to be a certain type, or a certain percentage crossed. Otherwise, you can have one thread that's a sustainable cotton running through the entire garment and say that's a sustainable product, right? So in sustainability, authenticity and being genuine and being truthful is very, very important, right? Because otherwise you're going to negate all the good work lots of other people are doing. So as you can see, these are the things that we're using. Some nice things are like, we have a plasma technology that we have created ourselves, right? Which repels, liquid and, increases the durability of a garment, which means someone buying it doesn't need to just throw it away quickly, right? We are resulting in new waste models, etc. Looking at alternatives to synthetic dyeing to use natural dyes from agriculture waste, such as tea in the coloration process, right? We have these flat knit capabilities. Now, why would you think, remember the second one was about disrupting the processes. Now, what is so great about, flatbed knitting, right? Now, what happens through that is that you can customize, you cannot have to cut off extra pieces. You knit the garment end to end, right? It's like one of those magic things. You can draw everything what you need. You don't cut it off a garment and then, have so much of wastage, etc. Right? So otherwise what happens is if you are trying to build something, just imagine something like a sock, right? How many pieces are there? How many pieces have to be cut? But if you kind of knit the whole thing in one, right, you will have less wastage, right? And then if the machine knows to build the garment, even if it's a small size or a large size or anything, you can have customization right for people, right? Then we source our raw materials. We're looking at, we're currently only looking at certain areas, but the tech takes all this, ocean plastic PET and makes it into, amazing back into nylon thread that we can use. I'm just going very quickly on and closing the loop. Here we're looking at life cycle of each of us, styles, and through this lens of logistic, material, technology. Okay, how many times do people use this? How long can they use it before they throw it? Now, this is something we can't do by ourselves. We have to partner with the people who are really dealing with the product at the end. When it comes to our lives pillar, going into these 4 areas, we have been looking at women, and I've told you, we are aligned, for 2 reasons. One is women in management and women in the factory floor. What can we do to make both their lives better? Now, over here, we are aligned to UN Women's Empowerment Principles and the SDGs. So you can see using real tools, existing systems of measurement is one of these things. These are the sort of framework of the programs that we're doing now. How can we say we are empowering women? We've decided for us, empowerment means career advancement, skill development, health, and sexual and reproductive health, preventing gender-based violence, creating role models, making unconscious bias the theme where you teach everybody in the workplace how to work with each other, childcare, mentoring and sponsorship, and flexible work. These are some of the great ladies who work for us. Anusha is a really great boxer, and she's like a little celebrity back in her hometown. She broke a lot of barriers in getting into this area. Bhagya Lakshmi, you can see how she has come in to MAS when she was struggling to look after 2 children. Kumudu was someone who, was actually a victim of landmines, an explosion while she was in the forest, helping her mother gather certain things. She lost both her hands and the vision in one eye. And today she's one of our best Paralympians. And if you see about Lisa, she also became very independent, having worked, in MAS Sumbiri, one of our overseas plants. And today she is a team leader. So these are just to give you a taste of what it is. We provide on-site or off-site childcare facilities according to the requirement in many of our locations. We have a centralized group policy on flexible working. This really worked well for us because when the pandemic hit, we were already getting a flexible policy, right? Which enabled lots of people to continue to work and earn whilst dealing with probably the most disruptive 2 years of their lives. The persons with disabilities pillar is one that's very close to my heart because our department is personally involved in it. We have everybody ranging from vision, speech, hearing, cognitive, and physically impaired colleagues with disabilities, right? And it's not like just hiring them and just hoping that they continue. We actually went into partnership with the Center for Disability Studies in the University of Kelaniya and created a support system where some of our employees who are really interested in this area really train themselves as supported employment officers to help their colleagues with disabilities have a better employee kind of experience. We are helping communities all around us, be it for various categories: education, environment initiatives, health, various tiny initiatives like local connect initiatives. Are like sometimes the police station will say, "Can you teach us productivity? We want our the policemen to be more productive. How do you all stop waste?" Nation mindedness activities. These are like when the floods happened in 2016, 2015. Big activities like the tsunami. Huge activities like that Manusat Mehevara right now, which we are like doing for the very, very poor who cannot afford food right now because of this escalating costs. So one of the programs that we are very fond of is our Sustainable Development Education Program, which is now, as of now, almost 15 years. This was as of last year. We have now expanded to over hundreds of schools and, lots of about 65,000 students. They take concepts of sustainability. We are teaching them things like waste management, etc., but they are doing projects that help their communities. Just to check with everyone, are you on a slide that shows you some children sitting and listening? Yeah, great. So then we finally come to our planet. like I said, there were 5 areas we're working on. So the business ambition is, for us to do scope 1 and scope 2 GHG emissions, to reduce them by, 25.2% from a 2019 base year. So that is a very ambitious thing. We haven't taken a, very, very, basic year. We've taken a year where we were the most successful in our business until, last month. As you might know, apparel hit its best month last June, where it beat its, 2019 March, which was the highest year previously, right? We're actively working on our supply chain to reduce these things, because many of the, emissions are happening up and down our supply chain once again. We're working on, we have one of the largest multi-solar rooftop installations across almost all our factories. We have utilized our roofs, right? And we're looking at alternatives, to biomass to make it a more climate neutral. Now, even if we take biomass, currently we are not even counting it as a reduction, because we're saying we are not very sure about the supply chain, because this country doesn't have a way of really looking where biomass is coming from. So we don't want to take from one side and say, oh, we are not using oil and gas, but also be destroying forests in another side. I mean, we use biomass, but we're working very closely to find out and close the loop on where biomass in Sri Lanka is coming from. We repurpose, recycle a lot of the waste we generate. I mean, that's quite clear. We have an internal program to phase out single-use plastic, right? Now that is not the, it's just less than 1% of the waste we have. The waste we have in production, etc., is completely, taken off landfill. It, if at all if there's any hazardous component or any component that cannot be recycled, it even goes to energy recovery, but most of it is recycled. Here you can see our sludge is being made into bricks, and that those bricks are used in a lot of our flooring. We are using a lot of the fabric waste is repurposed, given out, and we are also using methodologies to reduce the amount of waste that we generate in the first place. We have some of the things that we do for the community. One is this ocean strainer project. This has been, open source now. Anyone can actually do this. We've said this is for Sri Lanka and localities like Sri Lanka, where we have this ocean strainer, which started off in the Vellavata Canal. And to date, it has, stopped over 67,000 kilos of waste from reaching the ocean. That was just, from August to, 1 year, August to August. Sri Lanka has 100-kilometer canal network. There's a lot we can do right now. One of our customers have said, let's make another strainer and, come forward. We've opened it for other companies. So sustainability is not something you do alone and think it's something that makes you special, right? There is no
Can you guys?
right? Textiles, knitting, water sourced. Guys,
Sorry,
can
but
you see some?
your voice got cut in the middle. I don't know if it was just me.
Oh, sorry. Maybe my connection is getting a little spotty. Am I okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just, can you see someone washing her hands?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So this is one of our more interesting projects, which we did for the community. We actually made these seed balls using dung and mud and various nutrients. And we, the Sri Lanka Air Force uses a lot of, test flights to teach their pilots, etc. So they're always flying for other reasons, right? This is not very important things, as it's not in the middle of a mission that important things.
Your voice is breaking again.
An aerial deforestation. So that really grow with the
Your voice is breaking. Tilendra, can you hear her?
Yes, madam. I think your voice is breaking up a little bit.
I'm sending my presentation to the host to just see that bit of it. So, you know, everything that you've heard right now, what is the method, right? Now you've seen a big company like MAS try it out and you're like, okay, how do you actually do, you know, bring in sustainability, right? So there is there's a few things that you can do to actually bring in sustainability into your strategy. And to do this, you have to really look at a few important steps, no matter what your company is, right? So the most important thing to know that, you know, it isn't, sustainability isn't just for big companies. It's not just for people who, you know, are making, you know, environmental products or something like that. It's actually for everybody, right? And the only way we will do well is when everyone actually gets involved in having sustainable concepts within their companies. So how do you get about doing this? The sustainability strategy, right, has, you know, first starts off with you taking a really good look at, you know, what are the characteristics that are important for your company, right? Understanding sustainability and recognizing what it means to your company, right? Then saying, okay, like we said, we put up those three main areas about MAS and the apparel industry, saying it has a lot of waste, it has a lot of emissions, there's a lot of disparity, understanding what your real work would do. Then engaging with stakeholders, because as the company or as the product developer, you might see one set of problems, but you need to ask others also to understand who are you really affecting, right? Then you need to set goals and commitments, establish systems and processes, and then track progress and communicate this. Let's go to the first step, which is understanding sustainability and recognizing what it means, right? You have to look at every area of your company and look at where it benefits the community or the environment or people, and look at where it has negative impacts, right? You have to identify those issues with the biggest impacts, not the easiest to solve issues, right? We must look at where we have the biggest impacts. And you might say, well, you know, we can't go after this impact right now. It might take us a few more years. Maybe the technology isn't in place. Maybe you're not financially strong enough. But that doesn't mean to ignore that, right? You need to see that that is one important area. Then you move on to engaging with stakeholders. You plan for that engagement. These are people in the community, not just the people who are actually dealing with your product, not just your customer, the regulators, the pressure groups, etc., but even the smallest voice, like the community where you are operating, right? The schools in the area, right? You might understand how you might be having an effect on them, or how you can have an opportunity to actually help them as well, right? Engaging with stakeholders doesn't just mean that you're going to get a list of bad things about your company, right? But you need to plan for this engagement. You have to identify stakeholders, who are the ones who are really involved. Then you have to set expectations, because you can't go to the community and say, oh, what are your biggest needs, and then not talk to them after you find that out. They might have some hopes, thinking maybe they want to build our school, maybe they are coming to help us with the bridge, right? So you need to say why you're coming in and what you can and can't do. And then you engage with them, and then you review and respond, and you say, thank you, this is what we got from you, this is how we are using it, right?
So that is how, from a program like Eco Go Beyond, like we said about our community development education program, to a thing like the Oceans Trainer, we found out how to do something well because we engaged. Now, lots of this, if you take the Oceans Trainer, an example is that they really said, you know, we are not the ones, not the people near the canal that are putting most of the dirt, right? It comes from upstream, but we made them you know, be able to earn some money by collecting the dirt that we, you know, that we strain from the ocean strainer and dividing it and giving it back, right? So you need to get them involved as well. Then setting goals and commitments. You have to say, like we said, you saw our 12 commitments. We said, okay, we are going to work in these 12 areas. And this is what we're planning to do by this date, right? You might hit it, you might not. I mean, our emission goal is looking very, very difficult. Even getting women in management, 30% of the people in management to be women by 2025, very difficult. But we set that goal and we say we are going to try. We keep saying year on year, this is how we're tracking and how we're changing. Then we establish systems and processes. One of the most important thing is having a way that your management and your leadership is also aligned to these areas. You have to show them this is what we put down and make sure your chief operating officer, etc., is involved. There is a system, like we have a sustainable head of sustainable business. He speaks to a sustainable advisory council, which has a few of our other directors. So in that way, it all gets you know, captured, and we have goals that are along with our revenue targets and all. We have sustainability goals, and we have a process, right? They can't just say, oh, we were very good to women in this year, or we did a lot for persons with disabilities. What did you do? How much? By when? Who has signed off? What has been approved? Those are the systems and processes. Then you track those progress. Like I said, you track the progress and see how much are you doing. And you have to keep communicating, because when you communicate, you'll get positive and negative reactions. People saying, that's great, but you need to do better on this. This is not going to be enough. For instance, we had some energy targets and we had some, you know, ideas, but then, you know, the IPCC came up with, you know, we are going to hit 1.5 about that very soon. We need science-based targets. We need everyone to commit. So then we change our commitment of the science-based targets. That, in an explanation just for your boot camp, is a way of telling you just how sustainability strategy can be in any different place, right? Even if you're a tiny person who's starting off a cupcake business, or you're an established company, or you're an SME, or you're even a service provider, right? How are you planning to do your service in a manner which is better for people and for the environment, right? And whilst doing it, still remaining competitive and being able to do your business. The idea is not to set you out of business by giving yourself targets that are going to take more than you can give and not being able to do your core business properly. And also looking at, if you are a future business enterprise, what is the problem you're trying to solve with your business, right? Start thinking of, I want to solve a problem, and that's why I'm going to work and have a business. Then you will come up with things. Certainly our new products are solving lots of problems. We have one of those, you know, like a sock, which will help people recover quickly from injuries, right? We have wearable technology, which is telling heart rate, etc. Right? We have a lot of femtech products that are helping females through all their cycles, etc., to remain and you know, thrive without being held back by certain natural factors. So all in all, thank you very much. That is my presentation for you know, sustainability. I hope it helped you. I'm sorry about the final, you know, technical glitch. I was so happy that it was in the last 10 minutes, but I think you got a good understanding of how companies are looking at sustainability. And I'm happy to have any questions answered now.
We have a question in the chat box. Would you like me to read it out?
Sure, please go ahead. Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, is it best to have a sustainable policy or looking at it along the way?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. As an entrepreneur, it might not be a policy where it's really written down, but have a sustainability strategy. That's what I would first say, right? Have a plan at looking at what are you doing, what are your effects. The policy is really to make it, across a company, right? But you can have a strategy that's, that you have agreed on, because sometimes why you need a policy is for others to understand. If you have so many employees coming in to understand, this is why it's important. But you can do it in very many ways. I think when you're going into sustainability reporting, etc., they will definitely look whether you have a serious commitment, and that is seen through a policy, right? But that doesn't mean without a policy you can't be a sustainable entrepreneur. No, right? If you have done all your work of looking at where your company affects sustainability, how you can do activities better, put in little steps that you say, okay, maybe not in this year, next year I'm doing this year I'm just starting with this. Having a plan and tracking your progress, reporting on it and trying to improve, that should be your way forward as an entrepreneur. And I think as an entrepreneur, looking at your first entrepreneurship problem also as something to solve a sustainability angle would be a great start.
Okay, and also we have people asking for your email if they want to ask you
Sure,
some.
sure. Please, I think the organizers have my email, so that's fine. It can be shared with the participants after the program.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. And I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can find me. You'll easily find me because I'm in that same sari.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much and good luck with your projects.
Thank you for a great session.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it and good luck with everything. Thank you.